Hello.
Hello.
All right. So this is Squire Lucian interview number 2 with Lady Silk of Gwynedd. Yes.
Gwynedd.
Yeah, Gwynedd.
It's double D.
Double G.
With a TH.
Okay. So, well, in that light, I do have a first question I'm planning on asking everybody is, could you please give me your full title, any additional titles, anything you've ever kind of given recognition for, game-wide, unit-wide, anything?
Okay, I'm just going to stick with the basics. My character's full name is Marianthalassa Windhaven, also known as Silk.
Awesome.
Of House Windhaven.
Okay.
Of the Kingdom of Gwynedd. My title in the Kingdom of Gwynedd is Dame, which means I've attained the rank of knighthood in the Kingdom of Gwynedd. I've seen fit to spread that around outside the unit, and it seems to be going very swimmingly for me.
Awesome.
And I'm currently the dummy that took the position as vice president.
Vice president, yeah.
For Dagger here.
Oh yes, War Council. Okay, so what is your official colors, heraldry? Do you have any? I know you.
So the heraldry of House Windhaven is blue and white. We have an osprey. What do you call that when they're sideways?
Silhouette, profile.
Profile. Well, there's a specific word for it, like avant or sinister. Or, I don't know what that's called.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's usually a white bird on a blue field.
Okay.
We can add whatever embellishments we wish. So on my shield, it's an osprey with stripes of white and blue on a purple field.
Awesome. There you go.
My personal colors are pretty much purple, blue, white. I love green too, and most of my things are purple and green.
Purple silk, yeah.
Purple and green,
Purple,
yeah. Yep.
Very cool. So your title was earned in realm instead of your like an official unit capacity. Yes.
It was actually it was earned in my unit.
Okay.
The knighthood of Gwynedd is actually, as far as I know, the oldest existing and continuing knighthood in the game. And from our knighthood, many others have sprung up.
Yes.
For example, the Order of Torin.
Yeah.
Knights of Ross May.
Mm-hmm.
And the knighthoods that my squires are going to be starting.
Yeah.
When they attain the rank of knighthood.
But I have noticed Volley. I know Astrid, as we did half hour ago, I guess. Mm-hmm. They're not in your unit.
They're not.
Yeah, they're not.
So the theory is the title of knight is recognized as insofar as outside of the unit is only recognized insofar as other people recognize it. So when I choose a knight when I choose a squire outside of my unit, outside of the kingdom, the first thing I do, well, sometimes it's the last thing I do, but what needs to be done is you talk to the unit leader of the person who's petitioning. In the case of Volley, it was Drakan.
Right.
And for them, the idea is that when Volley becomes a knight, he will have created an order of knighthood that will fit in with their unit. Okay.
So I mean, in your own kingdom of Gwynedd, though, it will be recognized whether they kind of, is it?
Knighthoods are pretty much universally recognized in Gwynedd. If you come to Gwynedd and say, I am a knight of so-and-so, we believe you. And
right.
And that's pretty much that.
Okay.
We all learn our lineages for the purpose of, who knighted you? Mm-hmm. Because for some of us, it's a matter of pedigree. Mm-hmm. Who knighted you? What does that tell us about you? Also tells us whether or not you just decided to call yourself a knight.
Right.
Which, as far as Dagger here is concerned, is completely reasonable and okay.
Right.
And as far as I know, Gwynedd just we don't really discriminate one way or the other.
Okay.
Because we've got no need to.
Fair enough.
What does it affect us?
Sure.
It doesn't.
So, I mean, referring to other knights and squires and recognizing that, as a legitimate kind of title, I mean, do you, there's a couple of questions that kind of lead into what I'm trying to get at, but is there kind of an expectation of involvement in the game, morals, like things you can see on the field that that you're kind of either hoping or looking for, or
this is a personal thing. Every knight has different requirements and different desires for what they want in a squire,
right,
or what they see a knighthood as.
Right.
For me, I view knighthood as service to the game. It's service to the unit, service to the sport, service to those around you, and it's really to me should be a rank that's given to somebody who puts forward, that piece of themselves to say, okay, well, I'm going to take time out of my good time
right.
to herald or medic or, do busy work chores for you or for the unit or for the whatever it is. I volunteer to do this. I volunteer to do that. I check weapons. I'm back. I help run supplies. Whatever it is.
Sure.
And for me, it's the willingness to look beyond your own needs and wants as a player and say, well, in 10 years, what do I want to see going on in Dagger here?
Yeah.
And that's also something that's extremely important to me. You have to grow. You have to, and who grows Dagger here? Well, the people that are in it bring in other people and then make them feel like this is a good time.
Yeah.
And we can't do that if people don't want to move forward. So I think that as a knight, it should be an imperative. It's your stake in the future of the game.
Okay.
So, and of course, there's always the general on-field honor and the respect of your peers and all of that. I think that a knight should be someone who fights cleanly and who deals fairly with others.
So, I mean, would it be fair to say that while being a great source of, I guess you could say, motivation for supporting the game, you should be the best example of the game?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is absolutely it. Your best knights are people that are great at fighting, great at organizing events, always pitching in, and they tend to have jobs outside of events, such as setting up the events, event coordinators, or unit leaders who run practices, or it's the all-around package is what you really, really want. And while I don't believe that a knight has to be the very best fighter,
right, it
has to definitely be a part of what they were known for, whether it's a specific style or if it's just, well, wow, that guy's always a badass in the field.
Yeah. So going into, like you said, your expectations of knights and their involvement in the game, what if you don't mind telling me, some people are a little private about it, but can you tell me a couple of tasks and requirements you have of your squires? And
well, they tend to change from squire to squire. My drive with my first squire, Volley, is more geared toward his unit. They're a younger unit, although they're not so young anymore. It's
a little freaky, right?
It is
right.
Because time just flies.
Right.
But the idea is his job is to be helpful to Drakan.
Right.
And I think as a squire, he's definitely grown some in that respect, but it always takes time. Before he becomes a knight, I'll definitely want to see that expand.
Okay.
And taking on a bit more of a public role in the goings-on of Aratari.
Okay.
But it's, you start some people off with, with chess, and other people start off with checkers.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
For example, the second squire, Grim, when I took him on as a squire, I could have knighted him that day and nobody would have batted an eye. He runs his own practice. I mean, we never even see him anymore. I mean, we as Aratari, I still see him.
Yeah.
But he's, he runs a practice. He has beautiful garb. He has great on-field presence. Everybody who knows him respects him. And he's capable of teaching both combat skills and values to new players, which is super important to being a knight, and then taking on squires or even building the realm around you.
Okay.
So And then with my third squire, who I've just recently taken,
Yep.
Astrid, she is very involved in medicing. She's been helping out with that for a few events now. I think she's doing very well. And I'd like to see, maybe her become more involved with perhaps becoming head medic at some point. I don't think there's any specific end goal here. But the idea is to be responsible, to be an example, to be out there when somebody's in need.
Kind of what it kind of sounds like is you're describing, if I understand it correctly, you kind of like I don't have to earmark, but you can recognize a level of involvement within the community.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's really what's most important to me. I think that people who want the rank of knight should want it because they recognize it for what it is. It's a mark of service.
Well, okay. Well, one of the questions I have, that being said, why was it that you originally wanted to become a knight?
Well, part of it was knighthood is a level of rank inside our kingdom. There's a level of respect that goes with it, and it's. I didn't want to be just another one of the girls, to be honest. There's a lot of women in Dagger here, and all of them are here for various reasons.
Right.
And a lot of them are here just to come out and fight, and a lot of them are here just to hang out and party, and I mean, same with a lot of dudes.
Yeah.
For me at the time, there weren't a whole lot of women fighters in my unit, and I felt that I wanted to set myself apart from the others. It was maybe not the best motivation, but honestly, it was a drive for me to do better, and opened up this door of, well, what do knights do? Well, knights volunteer. Knights lead people. Knights help people. So I found myself volunteering for weapons check more, and I ended up moderating the national forums, and then dealing with the chapter, new chapter registration and upkeep and all of that with Greymail, and as I put myself out there, what do you need done? What do you need done? What's within my skill set? Because while I might have started on the path for reasons of rank in my unit, it really just ended up, well, what do I do to prove that this means something? And it's basically like every day you say, all right, well, what am I doing to say I'm a knight, and this is what knights do. So I guess it's more like I am proving that knights are not just jocks, I suppose.
Yeah.
And they can be. There's nothing wrong with a kick-ass fighter knight.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, if you think about it, you have your knight in shining armor ideal, and these guys are, they're tough and they're strong, but they're kind, and you want to have a guy that, well, no knight in shining armor would be successful if he couldn't fight. I mean,
right.
It's definitely a big part of it. And I definitely had my own struggles with being good enough to go from squire to knight. And sometimes I feel that I had to pay a little bigger of a price than some other people. But then again, everybody has their own struggles. So I'm sure that while some might say, well, the fighting was easy, but I had to wrap my head around all this stuff, and that was harder for some people.
Trying to put yourself in the middle of a community to be a supportive kind of personality instead of just being a member.
Well, yeah, and just because somebody's fabulous at fighting doesn't mean they're a very good leader.
Right.
And that is something that can be taught. I mean, almost anybody can learn it. So it's just a matter of whether or not that person is dedicated and wants to learn it. So, and that's basically the process of being a squire and learning what it is to be a knight, which obviously you've seen from your interaction with other knights, is it's different from person to person.
Yeah.
But the overall ideal, even though some aspects are more important to others than others to different knighthoods, it's really all the same.
Yeah.
You should be an example. You should be an exemplary member of the game.
So if you had to focus on one value, one skill, one I guess aspect of knighthood that if you say that person is a knight, it should be instantly recognizable. What would it be?
Well, it really comes down to it's not something you can just look at somebody and say. But for example, say Dev. You know Dev, and that guy is totally a knight. That guy's a badass fighter, and he works very hard to help Dagorhir progress forward.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious. If somebody says, well, Dev is a knight, you go, of course Dev's a knight, because he's in a position of service.
Mm-hmm.
He serves Torendor, he serves Dagorhir, he serves Ragnarok. And I think that's pretty much the biggest thing, because there are so many really awesome fighters who really just come out here to swing a stick.
Yeah.
And that's what the rest of us are here to support.
Right.
That's what knights are here for. And knights and other groups have other names for it, and there are definitely people who do these things without being a knight.
Right.
But it's definitely the point. The point is, you have proven that you can take this responsibility and go and run with it. So if somebody tells me I need somebody to do a thing, I think of first all the people that, well, let me grab a knight for that. Or Kensman, I mean, that's technically equivalent, so.
It's a different path.
It's a different path to the same goal. I believe Kensmen have a different, well, certainly a different flavor. But
Yeah.
It's basically the same idea is they are serving something greater than themselves. And they're just doing it with a slightly different flavor.
Yeah. So, I mean, in a question, I guess that I feel like we've gone over it, but I can just kind of, maybe it'll open up a new room. I mean, what does your status of nobility and knighthood within the game really mean to you?
It's responsibility. It's the responsibility to keep it going so that can be passed on to the next generation. It represents the investment of time that people have put into me to get me to this point, to where I can handle these tasks, and I also have, from the fighting skills and the helping learn how to make equipment, and basically giving you all the building blocks to say, what if you were suddenly in a little island of the world that had no Dagorhir? What would you do? Well, I'm a knight. I have these skills. I've been taught these things, and I can now find people that are interested in build Dagorhir. Oh, we can have Dagorhir here. I know how to do this. I've been prepped. And I think that's one of the goals also, is that you should be able to say, well, I'm out of my little comfort zone here where I know everybody and it's easy to come to Dagorhir. So now what do I do? Well, it means enough to me. I've put enough investment and of time and tears and sweat and a couple of drops of blood here and there to say, well, it doesn't have to. I can bring it anywhere because of all the investment that's been put into me. I can put it back out there, whether it's here where it's frankly easy to invest back into the community, or whether it's somewhere else where there just isn't any, because I've been given those tools, which is, when you think about it, actually pretty amazing.
So, I mean, in while you were a squire, and I mean the years after that you're a knight now, I mean, do you feel like those values and those things, such as you're telling me right now, have you felt those kind of echo through your real life, like you could reverberate?
Absolutely. Well, for one, for a lot of us, our Dagorhir life and our outside Dagorhir life are very intertwined, especially with when we make all these friends inside. So you see yourself applying the same values to your friendships and to your family life, and to one of the things that I learned actually prior to being squired that I applied years later was, I'm very careful not to make promises unless I am sure I can deliver. It's one of those.
So is it your stake in honor?
It's not even that. it's a matter of trustworthiness, because there's only so many times you can fall through for somebody that, you know, they no longer trust you. So for me, it was don't bite off more than you can chew, and do what you say and say what you mean. And those were, that specific thing, you know, was I learned that dealing with family after I'd moved from Philadelphia to Virginia, and it was far away, and I'd say something like, oh yeah, I'll visit her, yeah, I'll take care of this, or, and then it wouldn't get done, and then I'd realize later, well, man, I knew I couldn't do it. I hoped I could, and I wanted to, but I wasn't sure. So why would I ever do that? You know, my mother and my sisters and my daughter all had these expectations because I said I would do things, and no, that's not how this works. You have to commit no more than you are able to put forward, and
so there's a good value in knowing your limits.
Knowing your limits and following through is a very big thing. I think it's a matter of a maturity, you know, that you can say, well, there's these things I want to do, I want to be helpful, and then when you reach that point where you're like, oh well, no, I actually can follow through on my commitments, and it's one of those big things, and it's something that a lot of people can learn through being a squire, and I actually did it the other way around. I was 27 or 28 when I was squired, and I was knighted when I was 30 years old. That's a bit older than most people. So I'd done a lot of learning beforehand, but as I was going through my squiring and the many trials and tribulations that come with that, it was definitely brought home over and over again. You know, don't bite off more than you can chew. Don't commit to something you can't do, because when you don't follow through, you're failing. And it's basically, and then I'm not saying don't reach for the stars. I'm just saying anything else is a bonus, and you want to get better and you want to reach for more. But what you really want to do is finish what you started, and that's actually toward the ending days of my squirehood. It came in big, that lesson of finishing what you started, because there were definitely times during my trials that I was ready to give up. I felt, whether it was true or not, I felt that I was being singled out for being a woman, and that things were being purposely and deliberately made more difficult. And I said to myself, you know, I'm 30 years old. Half of the knights in my realm are 5 years younger or more, and they didn't have to do this thing, and they didn't have to do that thing, and they didn't. And then I realized that it wasn't about what knighthood was for them, and that if I finished, it would just mean all that much more to me. And I did, and I haven't regretted it. Not for a second. It was definitely one of the hardest days of my life, but it was also one of the best days of my life, because after it was all over, it was over. And then the real work started.
I mean, if I can bare my soul a little bit, I recently graduated college, and I mean, I can really, really feel that same kind of way. I'm not very good at school. By no means did I ever think I was dumb, but I 6 years I was going and failing, and I finally kind of did it, and I can really identify that.
How much does this matter to you? Do you really want this? And you obviously did. And congratulations.
Thank you.
And your knighthood is going to be the same way. When you get there, you're going to look back and go, oh man, you know, it was really hard, and now it's over. And and the great thing about being a knight as opposed to being a squire is the expectations become greater, but the pressure becomes less. Because nobody's hawking over your shoulder making you do it. However, you know, reputation is important as a knight. Your reputation of following through and of being helpful or being an example. And I think that when you're squiring, it's basically they're trying to to beat all that into you, you know, and like, yeah, you have to remember this, do this.
Yeah.
And when it's finished, it's you know, it's a very big relief. And then you realize, wow, no, this isn't over. I've got the rest of my life to prove that I'm worthy of being a knight. You know?
Yeah.
It doesn't. I mean, your squirehood might end, but the work doesn't. But it's still one of those. You know, I think about it and I say to myself, well, you know, what does it mean to me is basically what it means to others. And I like to preach, you know, you shouldn't care what other people think about you. But
Sure.
it's not about what they think about me, it's what they think about my knighthood.
Sure.
And it's different. It's the whole point is so when people know that something needs to be done, they know they can go to a knight. And if I continue to be the kind of the knight that people come to, then I'm doing my part for the knighthood, you know. That's the idea. You want to keep the idea of knighthood being, you know, somebody who's responsible, who's a leader, who and for me, service. Like I say it over and over again, service.
Yeah.
And
it's very much what Tim Horton said over and over and over.
Yeah,
and over.
and that's what it's all about. Because you know, why do we bother knighting people if we're not going to have Dagger here in 10 years?
Yeah.
If people aren't promoting it, then there'll be nobody.
So I mean, would it be? I mean, on that point, would you say that the act of service, not only putting others before yourself and putting the game, but it's also the livelihood of the world we play in, you know.
Yeah. It's really easy to lose sight of what we're trying to do. You know, we're trying to hit each other with sticks and pretend we're living in a medieval fantasy world. And it's great, and it's easy to lose sight of the fact that it takes a lot of work to make it fun.
Yeah.
And
I honestly I can say that at our Atari War Council, talking about the change of price, I you know, and that we brought up insurance and like a lawyer for legal action.
There are so many things
that was the first time I mean, besides Ragnarok War Council, somebody mentioned insurance when doing the discussion about metal knees and elbows. Yes. That was the only time I ever really heard about insurance and lawyers and anything like that. And
there are so many things that I think we should be spending money on that are not frivolous. You know, these are things that I think would help the growth of the community. Not so much the insurance. That's protection.
Right.
Up.
Right.
But I deal a lot with the chapter contracts, and there are definitely some issues there that I'm not really prepared to go into.
Right.
But basically,
that's fine.
it's we need another system.
Yeah.
And what we're doing right now is adequate, but I think it stagnates us. And I think that changes, and we need to change our legal documentation, but we can't do that without a lawyer.
Which we can't pay for right now.
We used to have one on retainer, and the retainer ran out. You're supposed to feed into that.
Right.
So, and it's one of those, we don't expect anybody to try to sue us. It's not that kind of a legal thing. It's, you know, but we put out things like waivers and chapter contracts that should probably be looked after by a lawyer.
And like I said, the work and the worry there is the livelihood of the game and the world.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, my main focus right now is growing Dagger here by maintaining the chapter records. And I've over the past, I guess it's been 2 years or so that I've been working on the project, and I've learned so much about what Dagger here is to other people.
Yeah.
A lot of Dagger here operates out of a park. They have a park. They all practice there. They all have battles there. And you say, well, why would you bother going to battles if you have practices with this? And they say, well, this is how we do it, and this is how we like it. Oh, okay. And it was alien to me that you wouldn't want to. Well, don't you have units? Oh, we don't really need units. You don't. But wait a minute. how do you know who's with who and who's? How do you? What if you guys want to have like a theme, and you guys want to do this theme, and you guys want to? Well, they just do what they want, and it works.
Yeah.
It works. It doesn't have to be our way. It's
right.
funny. However, there are certain things that need to be done that people don't realize that they need to do. For example, the Dagger Here contract requires an average of 1 event per month.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do 1 event per month, you just have to do 12 a year, basically.
Yeah.
And people don't realize, A, that they have to do that as a chapter, especially chapters that have been around for a long time and got passed from person to person, and
Right.
some of these people haven't even seen the chapter contract. We don't know who's in charge anymore, and we only find out when Ragnarok comes around and people want to go, hey, wait a minute, we get voting rights, don't we? And I'm like,
No.
maybe now I have to track down the old chapter leaders and legitimize your position. It can get crazy. Regular elections. You've seen our Atari have had our elections today, and we do them annually at Mayhem, and they come into effect on Althing. A lot of places don't do that. There are chapters that have had the same 2 people running them for well over a decade, and then when you ask them about it, they say, "Oh well, nobody wanted the job." Oh well, did they know they could run for the job? Well, And in a lot of cases, yeah, they have a regular election and the same people just end up winning, and that happens. I mean, you saw today that we had the same group this year as we had last year. That absolutely happens. But then you have groups where people are unsatisfied with the way that their chapter's running and didn't know they had a voice.
Yeah.
And so basically, and that's my main concern is, why aren't you satisfied with the way it's going? Oh, well, so-and-so pretty much just runs this like it's his own unit. Oh, that's really tragic. Don't you know that you're supposed to have elections? We've never had an election. What do you mean you haven't had an election?
Yeah.
And do you have a charter? They're supposed to have a charter? So all these little things that people are doing out there, and it's I don't want to try to tell people how to play Dagger Here,
right.
Other than we have a rule set. But like, I don't want to tell you how to be a chapter. But what I do want to do is make sure that the whole point of Dagger Here is for the enjoyment of the players.
Yeah.
And if the players aren't enjoying it, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And getting to the bottom of that and coming up with some solutions. I managed a couple of solutions recently between, for example, we didn't used to have a rule about who could start a chapter where. So we'd have chapters in the same city because they're all operating out of a park.
Right.
And in some cases, I've been able to convince them, hey, you operate in your park and you operate in your park, and then you can alternate who holds official battles. That way, they had issues where they felt like this park was taking players away from this park or whatever, and it's like, it doesn't have to be that way. You can all play together.
Yeah, why don't you just get together and all do it?
And sometimes it works out great, and sometimes it doesn't, and they just, they want to do their own thing, and we're just going to do it the way we want to do it, and as long as they're following the rules, who am I to tell you can't do it? So that's been challenging for me, especially is not pushing my agenda on people and telling them how you have to do this. So that's been my focus of service recently is way out there.
Yeah.
It's a little ephemeral and a little scary sometimes. So.
Very big.
Yeah. It's, like I said, a little scary.
What's up, Jake?
Hello.
I think that's about all I've got.
All right.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
And Exo just ran away because he didn't know we were doing a thing.
No
That's
idea.
fine.
Sorry.
Again, thank you
You're
so much.
welcome.
I guess.
I hope this goes well for you. I think this is a great project.
Can I? If you have one piece of advice for me personally.
Okay, so it's really easy to take a lot of things very personally, and this is one of my biggest hurdles. Is if you don't agree with me, you obviously must not like me, and it's really not the case. It's one of those things that's very hard to I guess the advice would be get over yourself.
Okay.
And it's been something that's helped me along. What does this mean? It's not about you. It's not. Look past yourself. Look at the big picture.
Yeah.
And sometimes your goals and the goals of the sport are not going to line up, even though you think you have the best interest at heart, but it might not be the right path. So just be open and get over yourself.
I got you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. All right.